Welcome to Commander Central, episode 220, and today we're going to take a look at what the year to come has to bring for Commander. I'm Dana.
I'm Max.
And I'm Chris.
Gentlemen, welcome back to the show.
Woohoo!
It's all three of us this time. It's like we have a full party.
Thanks a lot, by the way, last week for the two of you handling everything. You guys did an excellent job, so good show.
Thank you.
Yes, awesome. It was actually pretty fun to do that deck. I'm going to say it again, like I said during that episode. I love decks that don't run multiple staples and all that stuff where you actually have to sit and think about it, and you're playing the cards that don't ever get to see play, which is awesome to see.
Well, and especially that kind of deck where it's not like you're just mentally saying, well, I'm not going to run this card so I can run something weird, and like you're not making your deck worse by ignoring staples. The deck is actually kind of rewarding you for doing that.
Exactly.
That makes it feel a lot better too. You don't feel like you're like intentionally nerfing your deck. You're just like playing into the strength, which is making you make some odd choices. Yep. So yeah, no, I totally agree. I like that a lot. Anything interesting going on in anyone else's life? Anyone play any fun games? Max, have you got any webcam games in lately?
I got to take my Valduk Gumball deck out for a spin.
How'd that go?
I took second.
Oh, nice. Okay.
But Gumball is a fun format. You know, it's interesting. I had a lot of fun playing. I played with a few of the people in our Slack and a few people from the CCO Discord. So, you know, had a good game. Got to see a lot of cool decks, a couple Muldrotha decks, and a Derevi Flyers deck was what ended up winning that pod.
Oh, I can see that. Oh, ooh, that's probably gross.
It was.
I got to play on stream. We've been playing Wednesday nights for EDH Recast on Twitch TV. And if you want to go out to EDH Recast/Twitch TV, you can see like videos of the games we played. I did have a notable one I wanted to mention from last week. Usually I don't talk about him, but it was so stupid. I was playing my Adelaide's deck, and the turn prior to me, Joey went to cast Peer into the Abyss, which is, I think it's 7 mana, where you lose half your life and draw half your library.
Target player.
So I bounced the spell back to his hand with Narcissus Reversal and copied it onto me. and drew half my library and lost half my life total. And then, of course, he was tapped out. He only had like enough mana to basically do that. Passed it to me. Having drawn half my library, one of the cards I hit was Mana Geyser. And there was, of course, like, I think 16 lands tapped or something from my opponents. And I had a spell in play that allowed my first instant or sorcery the turn to get copied. So it copied Mana Geyser.
Oh, no.
So I had like 30, 6 mana or something available with my commander out. And I just cast like spell that doubles her power, spell that doubles her power, spell that doubles her power. I got it up to like 24. It was able to then cast an extra combat step and copy that. So I had three available combats, as well as a commander that was, lethal commander damage, and was able to just ping, 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 hit all 3 people. And it was all thanks to Joey being so generous and allowing me to draw half my library for 2 mana off Narcissus Reversal. So
he didn't see double blue sitting up. Come on, man.
I assumed he thought I was just going to counterspell it, but you gotta shoot your shot sometimes. So that's probably what I'm guessing he thought was happening. But being able to actually take it with Narcissus Reversal felt pretty good.
I think the best part of that entire play was when you contemplating the Narcissus Reversal, you said, Joey, that's a really good move, but I think it's going to be better if I do it.
Yeah, right. You gotta make sure you talk a little bit of trash when you're taking someone's 7 mana draw 40 spell. So that was good. That's the first time I think I've seen Peer into the Abyss cast, and of course it didn't even work for the person who cast it, but yeah, that's a strong card. That was a fun, interesting game, and you can go watch the VOD if you want to on Twitch. Other than that, I haven't got a chance to play really, even over webcam, much lately, so, and now we're right in the middle of all the Zendikar stuff, so things are going crazy on that front.
Sure is.
Mm-hmm.
School and school starting back up, and everyone's lives, I think, are probably a little bit crazy at the moment from that as well.
Yeah, but don't even get me started on that. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I'm happy to see. I saw that your wife posted a picture of Declan and he's all good for school and all that. But the Eau Claire school system here in Wisconsin is not on their game this year, is all I have to say about that.
I would use the term disorganized.
That's why I said not on their game.
Things are pretty chaotic. I will definitely agree. I would imagine that's the case everywhere based on whatever I'm hearing from everyone else. So
yeah, it sucks.
Yeah, we'll just try to fight through it, I would say. All right. If you out there in listener land like to reach out to us, talk about some cool games you played or how crazy the start of your school year is, how would you do that, Chris?
You can reach out to us a multitude of the social media platforms. Twitter seems to be the one that we, get the most out of. My Twitter's always going off for this. So you can find us on, the Twitter birds at CMDR Central. You can look us up on Facebook too. Haven't really seen too much. You see quite a few likes and stuff like that. So, feel free to comment on our stuff. Leave us a message. We'll get back to you when, we get a little chance to do it. You can search us there, CMDR Central. And then you can also find us online at cmdrcentral.com.
You can also head over to patreon.com/CMDRCentral and check out our reward tiers, which have been recently updated. We did some minor swaps. The pin is no longer a reward. Instead, we put our Planeswalker cards there. And then depending on what tier you're on, depends on how many or what kind of Planeswalker cards you get from us.
Yes, indeed. And we're still in the process of sending those out to existing patrons, simply because there's just enough people out there that it's a bit of a time-consuming process that I've been making my son do.
Have you?
Yes, I have. So I've put it, but now that he's going back to school, I no longer have free child labor here in my house to address envelopes.
Yep.
So I'm going to have to finish it up myself. So those are in the process of going out. We've seen a few people in our Slack post pictures of cards that have shown up for them. So those will be going out. Hopefully, I'll get the rest of them out in the next week or two.
Yep, I got a message from someone here local who we sent them out to. Big shout out to Craig DeBivic. He said that you guys' cards are trash and mine's the best, But Craig is also a red mage, just like I am, so.
Fair enough. All right. I think we have some contests here, too, that are nearing, or that have wrapped up, correct, Max?
They have wrapped up, so we're going to be giving away 8 packs of miscellaneous MTG promos to our patron supporters, and all these cards were donated to us by Andrew Nolan, so thank you, Andrew, for the donation, and these are all going to go find great homes out to our supporters and listeners. So for our Patreon winners, there are 8 of them, and so the winners are Case Vickers, Benjamin Collins, Patrick Healy, Joe the Mind Sculpted, Nick Tosini, Alex Cook, JP, and Jason Agnos. So congratulations to everyone there. We will reach out to you through Patreon and get your addresses and mail them out if we don't have them already.
All right.
We're also giving away 2 of those packs out on our Twitter. So anybody who followed and retweeted the tweet of the cards themselves got entered to win. So we want to say congratulations to Kyle Orthober at Kyle Orthober. And then we want to say congrats to Gingerbread Man at OG Totes Magoats. And we will reach out to you on Twitter to get your mailing addresses as well.
See, Chris, you and I really, by making Max pronounce names, we really were clever there. That was smart on our part to make that all fall onto Max.
It's good for him. That's the way I see it.
Why did I draw the short straw on this?
I mean, it fits your scumbag nature, so...
There we go. Yes.
Because then they're like, oh, he butchered my name. What a scumbag.
He did it on purpose. What a scumbag. Well, congratulations, everyone. Yes, we will get those out hopefully the next week or two as well. I actually have them packaged up already in bubble mailers. I just need to get addresses and get those out as well. So thank you very much, everyone who entered. And thank you very much to Andrew Nolan as well for providing us with all those promo cards. That was super generous of you, and we appreciate it. We appreciate everyone supporting the show, whether it's through Patreon or whether it's simply just upvoting us on whatever social media platform you see us post or whatever listening application you use to listen to the podcast. Every little bit helps, and it makes a big difference. So thank you all very much for enabling us to do this show week in and week out. All right, so we had a big week this week in terms of news about the year for Magic coming up, and we just thought we would kind of do a deep dive into all of that crazy information that got laid on us. First things first, I guess, was the week before we got Commander Legends announced, in depth at least. We knew it was coming, and you guys touched on this briefly, yep. But we can dig a little bit deeper here. It releases November 6th, 2020, so here in a couple months. The way it's set up is you draft 3 20-card booster packs. Each pack has 2 legends. Each pack has 1 foil. You'll draft 2 cards at a time. The deck you'll make is a 60-card deck, but there's no singleton rule in effect. So you'll have a commander. It'll play with 40 life total. It'll be a multiplayer format, but it'll only be a 60-card deck, and you will be allowed repeats just because it's a draft format, and doing anything else would be insane.
It would take way too long to go back through each of your picks, make sure you're not double picking something. And
absolutely. So that does make sense in that context. There's monocolored partners for the first time versus the 15 dual color ones we got in 2014, I believe, was that?
Yes.
It's been a while.
There's,
No.
yeah, 2015?
16.
16, wow, okay, 2016. There's 71 legends, each of which has an alternate version in a special frame using this new foiling process called etched foiling. And we are getting enemy battle bond lands here. So we got the allied cycle in the first battle bond set, and we're getting the enemy cycle in legends. So all that said, is there anything that you guys really like about this? Dislike? Any comments from anyone here?
The thing I want to talk about is the foiling, and I was doing some research today about this.
Okay.
The way they're talking about etched foiling, it made me think about the Pokemon trading card game. They have a foiling process that is very similar to etch. Like if you run your finger down, it's got like ridges in it and stuff like that.
Sure.
And I'm curious if it's the same as this because Pokemon TCG was originally owned by Wizards of the Coast, where it's now owned by the Pokemon Company or Nintendo or whatever they are now. So I'm wondering if it's the same foiling process as that. And if it is, that foiling is sick. I mean, it is beautiful, awesome. I would just love to see that.
It looks really good in the pictures, and Gavin Verhey posted a short video too. It looked pretty good in those pictures, so hopefully it is the same thing.
Well, I've seen other pictures like that where they're showing off cards and that, and then when you see it in person, you're like, oh, that's not as cool as it was when I saw it in the video.
Would the risk be that it winds up marking the? I wouldn't think so. Not in a sleeve that it winds up marking the card, but that probably isn't, I guess, a big deal.
So for the Pokemon TCG, it's the same thing as Magic. They're even more strict about marked cards and stuff like that. Like you can't have any type of curl on a card. I mean, everything has to be perfect for that. And those cards, you can't tell if it's a brand new card, if it hasn't like foil curled or anything. You can't tell if it's a different card or not.
Well, that's good. Okay. Well, they look good, and it's even if you're not someone who's looking for premium versions of these cards, this is kind of a win-win, I guess. If you're somebody who wants to find a premium version, here's your chance to get a premium version. If you're not somebody who cares about premium versions, then the premium versions tend to make the non-premium versions of the cards even cheaper.
Yep.
So it's kind of a win-win. If that's what you want to go get, you can go get them. And if that's not what you want, it makes your life a little bit more efficient in terms of buying cards too. So
now, have we received a spoiler for this yet? Because I am curious what the 71 legends are.
We got a couple. We got 2 of the monocolored partners, and we got Baron, the new Baron Sanger, who's mono black. So those are the 3 that we've seen.
Yeah, I'm more interested in the reprints is what I'm really curious about.
I think the only reprint we saw was Prosh.
Oh, yeah. Yay.
And Commander Sphere and Command Tower, guys. Come on, you're missing the important ones.
That's true. Yep, Command Tower and Commander Sphere. You're
just
correct.
us, Commander players might already have like 40 of each of them already, so.
Right, yes. Although, Command Tower, the foil of Command Tower is pretty expensive. I think it's like closing in on $50. So this is a chance to get a foil Command Tower again, or an etched one if you want a super premium one for people that are chasing those. So that's kind of nice as well. I think the only foil Commander Sphere was a Judge foil.
Yep.
It isn't super cheap, so that's useful there. I'm especially glad to see the Battle Bond lands. Those are just really good duels, and getting a chance to get the enemy cycle is really nice. So I'm pretty hyped about that.
Yeah, about time. Although
partners,
it does kind of bother me that they're doing this in a set like this, whereas I was hoping for a like new Battle Bond set where they bring out like newer cards and newer mechanics and stuff like that. But this is more of just hey, let's draw them in with these Battle Bond lands so they do this stuff.
Yeah, the downside here is that it makes me feel like we're not getting another Battle Bond set, at least anytime in the near future, and I liked Battle Bond a lot.
Yep.
I just hope, I agree with both of you. I kind of hope, though, that this means the next Battle Bond will just have all 10 lands in it, and it's going to be partners with pairs from every guild color as like the Tournament of Champions or something.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, I could see that.
Now, do we have a price point that's going to be on these booster packs?
Not that I could find, but I would bet if they want people to heavily draft this 20-card booster pack, I would guess it's not going to be the same as you would pay for a 15-card expansion. But I have a tough time thinking it's going to be a $10 pack either. So maybe somewhere in between is my guess. That's just a guess. I did not say.
Yeah, because it would be nice to know. Basically, because then you can judge, do I want to draft this or do I want to just buy this stuff and hope I hit?
Yeah.
And all that stuff.
Well, and it's also, this is coming out obviously in November, and everything is still kind of weird from COVID. So hopefully it's around in 6 or 8 months when it's much easier to go play with people too. I hope that isn't a problem either.
Yeah.
So I started talking about partners before, but I want to bring that up again briefly because we I said the word partners and didn't say anything else. So the problem I have with partners, and it's kind of become a bit of a meme. You guys mentioned it last week about.
I don't know what you're talking about.
I listened and I heard.
Oh, you heard that. Dang it. Oops.
So I liked partners a lot in theory when it was first spoiled. The implementation part I didn't like was I think they, in an attempt to make partners as open-ended as possible to like allow a gazillion different combinations, what they wound up doing was making them just generically useful in any situation, and that then created an incentive to just make a generically useful deck, or like, hey, I want to just play this combo and I'm going to run 12 tutors to find the combo, so why not just run whatever generically useful partner fits those colors that will generate me value from the command zone.
Yep, and never actually cast a commander or anything
right.
like that, yeah.
Or if you do, you just do it to get like one thing off it, or like if it's part of your infinite mana combo in the case of Thrasios or whatever. And that's, I'm not, if you enjoyed that, I'm not saying that's a bad thing. It's just like, for me, that's a very boring type of deck building and a very boring type of Magic. But I guess in thinking about it, that's not necessarily a problem with the partner mechanic so much as it is their attempt to make every partner work with every other partner by just having them always do a thing that's useful in every situation. Yeah. Looking at these three that we had spoiled, the new Baron Sengir in particular, that doesn't seem to be what they're doing this time. Baron Sengir is not going to be the kind of card you just pair up generically with something to generate value. That's a pretty specific card. So my problem, which isn't clearly a problem everyone has, it's just something that kind of annoyed me, might even wind up being a non-issue this time around. So I just wanted to point that out, that despite me complaining about partners a lot, I'm a little bit less worried about this particular group of partners than I am the original 15.
Yeah, well, we'll revisit this in a year, Dana, and see if your opinion has changed.
Well, because there's so many of them, I guess that's a lot of room for error. It doesn't take much of a screw up to cause a problem with a partner in particular. But you know what? I'm going to go into it with an open mind and assume they're going to be interesting cards that make interesting decks, and we don't get any more Thrasios, and if they screw up, they screw up. But at this point in time, I'm going to be positive about it.
Yeah, see, I'll take your side on this. So I understand Wizards, they make all this stuff and they don't do like thorough research, in my opinion. But that's because they have the option of banning cards in other formats. They don't have that option in Commander because we have a rules committee that takes care of that. So if the rules committee says these are fine, then we're just kind of stuck with them.
Well, and, the reality is, and we're getting a little bit far afield of the conversation, but like, even if they have a staff of 100 people playtesting cards, and it's not that big, but like, let's say 100, and those people are, playing 10 hours of playtesting a day, that's 1,000 hours, in a day of playtesting, and it's not that much. More playtesting gets done with those cards 10 minutes into the very first pre-release.
Sure does.
Like, just the sheer numbers, like, they just can't. They can't test the amount that people test. That's just not how math works. Yep. So, like, I understand why errors happen.
And half the time, it's not even, like, pre-release. For all we know, someone has figured out how to break the Gruul partners that were previewed, for Commander Masters. For all we know, there are people out there that just look at a card and say, yep, these 4 cards go with it, and it's busted.
Right, yeah. But those people have the time and the energy, and there's so many more of those people than there is the playtesting team.
Right. They like doing that.
Absolutely. So I get why it happens.
See, I'm looking forward to the monocolored partners. That kind of swayed me during the announcement, is when they said they were all monocolored, just because I have issues finding a commander I want to play in certain color combinations, specifically Dimir. And so I'm really hoping we get a handful of good blue legends and black legends that I can maybe pair up together, or maybe end up pairing them with an existing partner from, a few years back.
Well, that was kind of my thought as well. The one guild I currently don't have a deck is Boros. And I was looking through Boros commanders again the other day, and I'm like, just none of these commanders, it's not even like a Boros thing. It's just that none of the commanders in Boros really jumped out at me as something I wanted to build. So then I'm like, well, okay, maybe we'll get a cool white commander I like, or a cool red commander, or something that will partner up with a Kiri Lineslinger or Bruce Taro or something, and I could play a Boros, weird Boros partners deck or something. So yeah, maybe. I will keep an open mind. There is definitely, with monocolor, there's a lot of potential, like you said, Max, to make an interesting 2-color combination, I think, more so than we got with the 2-color ones before. So I'm looking forward to it. Let's move on though here to the next thing that was announced. Max, what do we have next?
Commander Collection Green. So we briefly talked on this last week, but again, there's going to be a foil and a non-foil edition, and they're exclusively at LGS's beginning in December of 2020, and they're going to come with 8 cards, all of which have new art. So we have Bane of Progress, Command Tower, Freylei's Land Wars Fury, Omnath Locus of Mana, Seedborn Muse, Soul Ring, Sylvan Library, and Worldly Tutor. When you try to get all these cards on their own, they're roughly about $130, so hopefully the price point for this collection, whether you want the foil or the non-foil version, is not that much.
And I do believe a couple of these cards is going to be their first foiling, correct?
First foil for Bane of Progress, I think, is the one that's the first foil of. But a lot of the art is interesting, too. Like, even the Soul Ring and the Command Tower are kind of green-themed. There's a green-like flavor to both of those new pieces of art as well. So even if you don't care about foil or something, maybe you'll want that green-themed Soul Ring for your green deck, or that green Command Tower for your green deck or something. I'm going to definitely get that Sylvan Library that has Reki art from a Reki deck.
But it's not legendary. You can't play that card. That's illegal.
it's from Legends. That's close enough. Yeah, Max mentioned the price point, $130 for the cheapest versions of this right now. So I guess the question here, and they didn't reveal the price, the question will wind up being, what is the price point on this collection?
Yeah, for 8 cards, it's probably going to come in a box similar to the Spellbook, I would imagine. So I'm hoping it's within the $30 to $40 range and not much more than that. But, God, you don't know.
Yeah.
I definitely think the non-foil version is going to land in that $20 to $40 range. I think the foil version is probably going to start at $50 USD and maybe go all the way up to like $70, but that's just me guessing. Looking
back at the signature spell books we got, and this is somewhat similar to that, 8 cards in those as well. When those came out, the Jace one was, like, those at a $20 price point. Yep. Mystical Tutor was like $15 at the time, and that was in that set, which then dropped down to like a $5 card, and now it's back up to almost $20. Yep. So they were, at least with those spell books, willing to put them at a price point where, like, at least prior to release, one card was roughly the value of almost the entire spellbook. So if you look at like that here, Sylvan Library, if this was like a $40 or $50 product, Sylvan Library would suck up a chunk of that, like most of that price. Yes. But yeah, I could see it at that. I would love to see it at 40 to 50 for sure.
Yep. I'm also curious if it's going to be a set MSRP from Wizards, or if it's going to be, hey, guess what, LGS is? You guys figure this out for yourselves.
Because that was always the problem with the From the Vault product. One shop would sell them at MSRP, and the next shop over would have them at $150 a piece.
Yep. I do like how our local shop did it the one time, where they're like, we only got like 5 of these in, so we're not going to sell them. We're going to give them away as prizes for things.
Yeah, I mean, it beats just jacking the price up to the ceiling.
Yeah. So. I mean, I'm pretty sure Gavin did mention on the reveal, he did mention that we don't do MSRP. He kind of made that a point again. So I don't think there's going to be an MSRP when these come out, in a couple months. But I agree with you guys. I hope, the local stores don't just jack the price up just so they can make a buck.
Now, if I do remember correctly, we discussed this quite a while ago, actually, when this was first spoiled, they're going to do something like this. And what was the difference between LGS being able to get the foil and the non-foil editions? Because wasn't it a WPN store versus a regular store type of deal?
Yeah, so your regular WPN stores get just the non-foils. Your premium WPN stores will get access to both.
Yep.
What is the difference? Just how much product you sell?
Products you sell, events you host, like your turnout and stuff like that, I believe. Chris, you might know more about this.
I'm trying to remember, because I know our local game store is a WPN, but I don't know if they're a premium one, because I know it all depends on the amount of people you have in and your location, and if you're allowed to hold big events, or if you can only hold, your standard size events and all that fun stuff. Like the difference between, let's say, Dreamer's Vault Games and, your local shop down the road that's only gets like 20 people. That's a huge difference in, what kind of store they are.
Well, are there any, I mentioned that I was definitely going to try to find that Sylvan Library for Reki. Is there anything in particular you guys wanted here? Or did you just want the whole thing for cards? Or was this not really something that you care about one way or the other?
I know for me, this is going to turn into the collection. I'm going to get
Sure.
one, and it's just going to sit sealed along with my spell books. And so I'm assuming they're going to do a Commander collection red and blue and black and all that. And I want each one, singly sealed, and something for the future where you can just be like, oh, look at this. I got this. Let's see, what happens.
Yeah, I would guess that too. I would guess we will continue to get the Planeswalker spell books maybe in the spring, like it was the Chandra one this year, and maybe end of the year we'll get these every year moving forward as well. I would like to think that. So, how about you, Max? Anything from here catch your eye?
It kind of all depends on the price point. I would like to get one to put on the shelf like Chris is going to do, and one to crack open.
Sure.
Just because I want all these cards. I love the Soul Ring art, and I'm super stoked to see what they're going to do in the red Commander collection or the blue Commander collection with the Soul Ring art, and how the Command Tower has just that little hint of color, in it. I love all the art. So yeah, I kind of want 2 copies if possible, just so I can play with a set and keep a set.
Yeah.
Well, and this is another one of those things, like, even if this isn't for you, even if you don't care about any of these cards, the person like me who's going to get that Sylvan Library has now taken my existing Sylvan Library out of my Recce deck, and that could, that's something that's going to go back on the market. The person who's playing a Yasan deck, who's running Worldly Tutor and wants the new Worldly Tutor with the Yasan art from this, that then puts a Worldly Tutor back onto the market that might lower the price for you who doesn't care about the art and you just want a Worldly Tutor. Everyone who wants to foil out their Bane of Progress is going to free up a Bane of Progress. Maybe gets, traded back into your LGS, and now there's a Bane of Progress that's a little bit cheaper than it was before. So all of these things, even if they're not your jam necessarily, are probably helpful to pricing for everyone. All right, I'll take this next one here, Chris, since it's not very exciting.
I even had this all set up what I was going to say.
Did you? Then go ahead.
Okay.
Jump in, Chris.
So I was going to let you all know that, Spike Lee called me the other day, and he goes, you remember back in the 90s when me and Michael Jordan were hanging out, and we did this big commercial for those Air Jordans. Guess what? Now Magic the Gathering, they got the shoes. You got some nice kicks coming in, and it's from K-Swiss, and it's based on your favorite boy planeswalker, Jace.
Well, I didn't think we'd be getting K-Swiss Jace shoes announced earlier this week, but that happened. They actually don't look that bad, all things considered.
They glow in the dark.
They glow in the dark too. You know what? Again, this is not my thing, but I thought they were kind of funny, and again, why not?
So I did some research on this morning, and the price point on them, from what I could see, like the cheapest were running like about $100, and they are actually sold out. Like I could not find anywhere where they were for sale anymore.
Yeah,
they went.
I've seen eBay listings which are 3 to 4 times that $100 price tag. It's crazy
for a pair of shoes that you step in a puddle and they're ruined or something.
Who would have thought there were that many Magic players that were also sneakerheads?
Right.
I would not have guessed. But hey, they're out there, and I would guess since they sold out pretty quickly, this will not be the last time we see this. I would guess we'll see a red Chandra pair down the road, and
I hope not.
Liliana ones with skulls.
I just want my Gideon warrior flip-flops, in the Athens sandals with like a Gideon on it. That's what I want. For sure.
Or some like fuzzy cat slippers that are Ajani themed. Definitely. All right. Moving on from shoes, we got the yearly timetable released of what we're looking at the next year for sets coming out. So in winter of 2021, which is essentially January, we have Kaldheim, which is Magic's Viking world. In spring 2021, so we're looking at March/April here, we have a set called Strixhaven, which is described as the most elite university in the multiverse. In summer 2021, we have a really odd one, Adventures in the Forgotten Realms, which is a Dungeons and Dragons themed set from Forgotten Realms from D&D.
Yep.
That's a standard legal Magic set. This isn't like a silver border goofball thing. This is an actual standard set that's using stuff from Forgotten Realms, and I'm gonna guess there's not gonna be any like overlap with Gatewatch or Planeswalkers or anything in that set, but they didn't announce that, so I don't know if they're gonna start treating D&D as like part of the Magic multiverse or not, but regardless, we're getting that set next summer.
So I read something as you can tell by the notes I put up here on this. And this is not the first time they had a crossover. In 2016, they had some sort of crossover with Zendikar and the Forgotten Realms, some sort of book and stuff like that. So this is not the first time.
And they have done like the D&D, the rule book for, I think Ravnica had a D&D book as well,
for Theros.
I think.
I have both of those books, and they're actually quite interesting. It's fun to use that kind of stuff in your games when you're playing D&D.
And this is replacing the core set. It looks like somebody put notes in here because I wasn't sure of that. Okay, cool.
That's on the article. I read that. According to Morrow, he confirmed it on his Tumblr blog that this will be replacing the 2021 core set.
Okay.
But he did not say going forward if this is something that will be happening. So he, Morrow, he's kind of like, hey, guess what? And then he just sits back. He's like, now I get to let you think about what could happen.
The fall set, we're going back to Innistrad already. In a weird way, there's 2 sets basically in the fall. I don't know if that means they're going to be 2 sets released simultaneously, or if like one is September, one is October. They didn't specify that. One has a werewolf theme, one has a vampire theme, it looks like, but that's what they said. That's it. We got nothing else beyond that. There's Time Spiral Remastered, which is said to recapture the fun of a fan favorite block. This is the first remaster set we've gotten in paper. We've got them online before, but not one that's actually like a cardboard set you could go buy. Some of these are old framed cards. We saw a Chalice of the Void in the old Artifact frame, a Path to Exile in the old frame, and a Relentless Rats. Last but not least, Modern Horizons 2 was announced, which is a follow-up to Modern Horizons, and enemy fetch lands. This is the actual only time we're going to see enemy fetch lands in packs versus as like a box topper or something. So that's the next time we'll get fetch lands is in Modern Horizons 2.
And Morrow promised us, what was this, like 2 years ago or something like that, the enemy fetch lands would be back. And sure enough, here they come.
All right. That's a lot there. So, Max, we'll start with you. Anything that you want to highlight or talk about here that you like or you find interesting?
I'm looking forward to Strixhaven. The Magic University of the Multiverse. That's going to be pretty cool. I hope it's somewhat influenced by Harry Potter, as in like the different houses, and maybe that's the 5 different colors of magic. The different houses are your 5 different colors. And I hope it just kind of brings a little more power to the weaker colors like white and, just white, and maybe Boros if there's 2 color cards.
What are you talking about? Red needs all the help it can get.
No, it does not.
It needs more. Yes, it needs something other than like Fireball. We need like Fireball, but you get to draw the same amount of cards and stuff like that.
Lightning Ball.
Yes.
We can talk about both these two kind of simultaneously, Strixhaven and Kaldheim. We'll do Strixhaven first. I agree, Max. I really like that idea. I like that it's a specific, instead of like being a whole plane where we're talking about, Egypt Land or Adventure World with Zendikar or Halloween World with Innistrad, this is really specific. It's like about Witches University. And I don't even know if Strixhaven is the name of the plane or if that's just the university there. I don't think they've said that, but I like the real like dialed in focus on one aspect of the plane versus the whole plane. That's very intriguing to me. And I also agree this feels like a monocolor set, like we're going to get a heavy emphasis on the 5 colors as well, which I also like.
Which would be awesome.
Yeah. So what the internet is telling me, Strixhaven is the most elite university in the multiverse, and it features 5 colleges which battled it out to take on magic.
Okay. So we could get into technically that could be enemy colors, it could be allied colors, it could be a kind of thing where we got in Ixalan where you have like, some things that are 2 colors, some that are 3, whatever. And so I guess it could really be anything, but it feels, for whatever reason, like you said, Max, like it's a bunch of, like it's 1 for each color of magic.
It kind of seems like a Ravnica type set. That's kind of what it reminds me of.
Yeah.
With the different houses of
Ravnica for monocolors instead of guilds. Yeah, I agree.
I'm also really interested to see if we'll get any returning planeswalkers. Like, we know how Jace became a mind mage, but he didn't go to this university, so I wouldn't be shocked to see Jace there because it's Jace, but I would be disappointed to see Jace there because it's not in his lore. You know what I mean?
But it would be a good way to explore the backstory of some characters who we don't know that much about. Is this where Kaya went to school? Is this where like there's a few characters we've been introduced in the last few years who because they weren't part of the Gatewatch, we have not got this real detailed back history about them. This would be a great chance to fill out a whole bunch of the characters that popped up that were new planeswalkers in War of the Spark. It'd be very easy to have somebody be from Strixhaven. as part of their
It could
backstory
also
for
be,
sure.
not even just planeswalkers, but like legends in general,
Yeah,
like this could be a set that was set, thousands of years in the past or whatever. And so this is where this legend
no, it's a
got
good
its
point.
start, type of deal.
This is where Urza and Mishra started, maybe.
Yeah, they could very easily touch on that kind of thing and have it be part of a backstory that was never mentioned before or something. Yeah, there's a lot of possibility there. Let's jump to Kaldheim quick here. That's Magic's Viking world as is described, and this was first introduced in the iPhone Duel of the Planeswalkers, which was the tablet game. In one of the, I think it was 2015 or 2014, where Chandra was kind of the main character. The very final fight in the game takes place on Kaldheim, which was a very snowy / Viking world. So people have been kind of waiting for that for quite a few years. Viking world, like that's aside from losing every Super Bowl, there's a lot of open-ended things you can do with Vikings.
Ouch.
Wow.
I was waiting for
Ouch.
I assumed Chris, the Packer fan, will be all over that.
I was, and I'm like, oh, how do I approach this? I don't want to step on too many shoes. I mean, if it were,
we do have quite a few Minnesota listeners.
Yeah, if it were the Bears, it would be game on. I wouldn't even hesitate.
So the question here, I would guess everyone's kind of wondering, is do we see snow come back as a mechanic?
That would be awesome. In standard, that would be pretty cool.
That would be interesting, and there's a lot more you can do with it. I feel like yes is the answer. Number one, it's a very snowy world. Number two, I wonder if how much of the snow stuff from the first Modern Horizons set was kind of done with this in mind as well.
That could be. I hope they touch on, like the Norse mythology and stuff like that with it, because that would be cool. Give us a little bit of a story to it, more than just, some random new set type of deal.
Or the equivalent of a Thor character or an Odin character, kind of like in the past we've gotten that in Theros, where we got their version of the gods from Greek mythology. So there's a lot you could do with a Viking world as well along those same lines.
Yes, I mean, if worst case, this does turn into like a similar to Theros block, I know many people who loved Theros, so this could become another recurring theme that we see.
For sure. So we was there anything else with the Forgotten Realms stuff anyone wanted to mention? Max, you're not really a D&D player like Chris. Does this have any interest to you as someone who doesn't really play D&D or anything?
As someone who doesn't play D&D, no, it doesn't interest me, but what interests me is the fact that Wizards is starting to maybe bring in other franchises, either that they own, or maybe we'll see stuff that Hasbro owns start getting pulled into Magic the Gathering to try to, boost profits. I know that's a terrible excuse, but the bottom line is the bottom line for Hasbro. And if they can get D&D players that have never played Magic to come over and play Magic just because they put it into the core set, which is meant to help new players get into the game, if this is taking a core set spot, and vice versa. Maybe I'll play this set and be like, cool, I want to give D&D another chance, and I'll go and try D&D, So I'd really like that idea that they're finally kind of like reaching out a little more and be like, hey, let's try to incorporate D&D into an actual standard set. We've gotten stuff like the My Little Ponies collections and the Transformers cards from Comic-Con a few years ago, but it'd be cool to see maybe not exactly Transformers, but more of a vehicle type set that resembles something like Transformers.
When I first saw the announcement here, I didn't love it at first, but the more I think about it, does it matter like whether or not the legend someone has across the field from me is Naban or it's Elminster from Forgotten Realms, or what's the drow? Drizzt?
Yep.
I don't know how to pronounce his name. Does that matter? Like, that doesn't affect my game whether it's Azuri or Drizzt on the character card. So it's not like something I'm hyped about as someone who doesn't really like. I know two names from Forgotten Realms. I just said them both. That's all I know about it. So it doesn't have me excited because it's not something I've ever really been into. But there's no downside to it for me. Okay, so it's a new batch of characters that aren't ones we've seen before, and that's going to be just fine. I can still jam those characters into my decks if the card fits, so yeah, it doesn't have me hyped, but I've got, despite my initial, the last couple of days thinking about it, yeah, I'm interested. I think if anything that gets new players involved is probably good for the game, so I'm down with it.
Yeah, I'm hoping that this... it would be cool, but I bet you it won't happen. But if they stuck true to like a Dungeons and Dragons theme where we see level up again.
Sure. Oh, yeah.
Then we see a lot of equipment in the set too, because that's all a big thing in D&D. Your equipment makes the character and stuff like that. So if they stuck true to that, if they followed, the protocol of D&D, then you'd see a lot of that kind of stuff, which would be cool to get added in, overall, like new stuff that we could play in Commander.
And, there's really no reason why they couldn't storyline wise say that all of the stuff from the D&D worlds are just different planes in the multiverse.
Yep.
Like there's already kind of planes in D&D, whether because Forgotten Realms is a different plane than Ravenloft, which is a different plane than Greyhaven, I think was one, or Spelljammer or whatever. See, I do know some stuff.
I'm loving how you're just like naming
surprising
this
myself
like,
here.
Yes, that's right.
So those already were like different planes in the D&D universe. There's no reason they couldn't just like fold those all in together and at some point have Jace interacting with Elminster or whomever. So
yep. I know
I'm
that,
down for all that.
I have a couple of friends who play a game called Spellfire. It is a card game that came out around the same time as Magic, and it was heavy Dungeons & Dragons theme. So, I'm curious. I got to talk to them about this and see if they're hoping that it's going to be similar to Spellfire, or if they're going to bring the characters from Spellfire or stuff like that and kind of try to tie the two together, maybe. I'm not sure. It would be awesome to see, though.
Yeah. All right. Innistrad. 2 unnamed sets. One that is just werewolf adjacent, one that has vampires or something. I guess we don't know anything beyond that. For some reason, I just kind of got a Lorwyn Shadowmoor kind of vibe from that, but I guess there's no reason for me to think that other than that was a weird 4-set block versus whatever the heck this is. So any thoughts here from anybody on Innistrad? I know people tend to like Innistrad as a plane.
So going back to Innistrad, I'm curious about the Eldrazi, Emrakul, Avacyn's dead, Nahiri and Sorin still have their, issues and all that were left there. So I'm curious if it's going to be something like that or if we're going to go back in time to before all this stuff, because unless I'm mistaken, they didn't quite, eliminate all the Eldrazi, and Emrakul is still technically there somewhere, so...
Yeah, it could be anything. I mean, who knows? And the fact that there's 2 sets, they could do one prior to the first Innistrad set and one, or both of them in the past. Like, there are no, I guess, rules telling them they have to do one or the other, so who knows? It's interesting they're doing 2 sets. That could mean they just wanted to do 2 sets. or it could have a storytelling purpose too. Who knows? I always like seeing Innistrad. I think we had the same problem in Innistrad as we had with Battle for Zendikar, which was the things people liked about Innistrad, which was kind of horror world, and the things people liked about Zendikar first time, which was kind of adventure world. When we went there the second time, we didn't have either of those 2 things nearly as much as we did the first time. It was all about the Eldrazi the second time on Zendikar, and to a lesser extent, the same thing was true in Innistrad. I think people just wanted to see the horror tropes, they just wanted to see the Adventureland stuff, and as we're seeing in the new Zendikar set that's being previewed literally right now, they've really been like, people want Adventureland, we're going to do Adventureland stuff. They're like really heavily going back to that, and I'm wondering if that isn't going to be the case in Innistrad too. It's going to be like, well, we're going back to it's Halloween every day.
Well, it would be cool to see if they go back to like the origin of werewolves and like the first vampires that were on Innistrad, because you hear Soren talk about his great-great-grandfather, which was what, Edgar Markov or whatever.
Yep.
So maybe he'll be in it or something like that, stuff like that.
Yeah, there's a lot they could do there for sure. So Innistrad is just always fun to go to. I'm always down for more of that. That's all I really have to say about that. Anything else? All right. Time Spiral Remastered. Probably not a ton to say here because Time Spiral is a crazy set and we don't know much more beyond that. Anything you want to see here?
Sudden spoiling reprints. More of them.
Sure.
So I'm guessing
more slivers.
This is going to be a supplement set. It's not going to be like a standard legal set, judging by, Chalice of the Void, Path to Exile, and stuff like that.
Yeah, I would guess that's true as well.
So I would like to see them do it how Time Spiral was originally meant to be done, like with the Future Sight and everything, where they're like, we're going to test cards that we want to put into sets, so we're going to jam them in this and see how people can break them before we actually make them, legal in standard or something like that.
Well, in that was one of my favorite things about the first Modern Horizons, and I guess we can mention Modern Horizons 2 here as well. I think I made the comparison when we reviewed Modern Horizons about how much I liked that it felt like Time Spiral 2, because it was just them being like, let's throw Rampage on a land and also give it flying. Like they just like, we're just doing weird stuff, throwing weird mechanics together that we never saw. Again, Time Spiral was the originator of all of that, and I hope we see that again on Time Spiral, and I hope we see it again on Modern Horizons too.
Yeah, that would be pretty cool. I mean, I do like those random just one-ofs of stuff, and it's like, this could be really good or this could be really, really bad, one or the other.
Right. Now, I will say this, at least based on everything I constantly hear from people, Modern is still feeling the impact of Modern Horizons pretty severely, and now we're already throwing Modern Horizons 2 at Modern as the format.
Yeah, they keep banning cards.
Yeah, I can see why Modern players might be a little bit concerned about it, but like from a Commander perspective, there was a ton of cool cards in that set.
Yeah, I can't.
So
I can't wait.
I'm hoping we get more of those from Time Spiral Remastered and from Horizons.
I just want brown artifacts.
Exactly.
In Time Spiral
Thank
Remastered.
you. Thank you.
Well, the getting that old frame back on stuff is absolutely a lot of fun. That Chalice of the Void looked amazing.
That's how artifacts should be. It's so much easier to see them, because the thing I have an issue with, and it could be due to my poor eyesight, is when you are playing in a match with someone and they play an artifact and then a colorless creature, it's hard to distinguish the two apart.
Yeah.
So you got to actually read the card to double check and all that. Whereas when artifacts were brown, you're just like, that's an artifact. Easy to tell.
You bet. Well, a couple of years ago, I was trying to build a Voltron deck, Equipment Voltron deck, and I wanted the 5 swords in it. So I was like trying to trade for the sort of, when there was only 5 of them at least, sort of Fire and Ice, sort of whatever. And there was Judge promos of them with the old frame.
Mm.
And I didn't get all, I think I'm not sure if there's all 5, but I got 2 different ones. I don't even remember which ones. Those look so good.
I think only 2 of them come in that frame.
Okay. So the 2 that they exist in that I managed to trade for on whatever trading app I was using at the time. So I did pick up 2 of them. They just looked so fantastic in that old brown frame with the star on the border at the bottom in foil. Mm-hmm. I really adored that look. So getting more of those things. That Path to Exile in the old frame looking like it's something that came from Alpha looks so cool. Yeah, absolutely down for more of that for sure. And again, not to keep repeating myself, but like if you aren't someone who cares about this kind of stuff, that still makes Path of Exile cheaper. It makes like every previous version of Path to Exile, if you don't care about the cool new one, it knocks the price of those down and makes your life easier if you want to acquire a path. So this kind of stuff I think is generally good for the game, even if there's a lot, like it's a headache trying to keep track of all of this.
Yeah, I gotta hunt down Chalice of Voids again now. I have the originals, a playset of them for Modern. And now I got to hunt down the new ones because I'm like, oh, that board.
Right. Yeah. And when we get into the review here the next week or two of the new Zendikar set, where I'm sure we're going to be like, okay, these are only available in this pack versus this pack where you can get the foil of this or whatever. It's going to be confusing, but it's still, if you are somebody who wants the premium versions, you can get them, and if you don't, it's good for you too, I think. So this is one of those situations where like WotC and Hasbro looking to make a bunch of money is probably good for the average player.
Yes.
And speaking of that, the last thing we have is we got 2 Secret Lair drops that were announced. Yargle Day of all ridiculous things, which is 4 cards with Yargle in the art.
Oh boy.
And some Walking Dead themed stuff. So again, we're talking about licensing. They had, I think they showed a token that was a Walking Dead themed zombie token, and I don't think we saw anything else from that. I mean, I'm not, if you've got a Yargle deck, I guess that's good for you. Any of this kind of stuff? Psych up either of you two? Any plans for a Yargle Secret Lair purchase?
Well, no. I mean, I think by the time this airs, that drop would have ended, because I think it dropped on the 3rd of September, 9/3, Yargle Day, But I think it's cool. I think it's just a cool way to do something unique that they would never do in a normal standard set, Commander set. Even like a Modern Horizons, you're not going to get an opt with a Yargle in the art.
Right. And if you don't want it, you don't order it, and you're out nothing. It doesn't affect you at all.
Exactly. And I know nothing about The Walking Dead except for it's still on TV, I guess, and the comics are better.
Yeah.
And the Winchester's dad is in the show, I think. I know that much as well.
I think, yes. Waiting for the Supernatural Walking Dead crossover.
Yes. I mean, if there's a legendary Jeffrey Dean Morgan, sure, I might play him.
I'd buy that card for sure. All right, I think that is going to wrap up our wrap-up of the year to come and all the news we've gotten so far. So now we can get off the podcast and go back to reading spoilers from Zendikar Rising, because they are insane so far. Actually, I have not entirely figured out how to evaluate these new dual-faced cards yet. It's making my brain hurt.
Yeah, they're interesting, and we'll for sure talk about them in the coming weeks, I think.
Yes, for sure. All right, that is going to wrap up episode 220. Our podcast theme is Retro Future Dirty by Kevin MacLeod, licensed via Creative Commons. Our show is edited by Rafael Garcia. You can find him on Twitter at Ursa Bearwalker. I'm Dana. You can find me on Twitter at Dana Roach. Max can be found at CMDR Central _Max. And Chris is at Wise Squishy1. We'll be back next week with another show. Until then, I'm Dana.
I'm Max.
And I'm Chris.